right, hi friends and historians. It's just me this afternoon with Miss Lewis hanging out, waiting for Miss Tickle and Miss Todrick to come back. We hope Miss Todrick feels better soon, and Miss Tickle, we hope you had a great birthday. So I hope everything was good. Today we're going to talk about the Peloponnesian War and how that's going to lead to the decline of all of Athens. Greece, the whole 9 yards, they're going to fall. And it really matters because Greece has such an effect on the rest of the world. We want to know what happens and how it leads us to the next civilization. Let's make that a better arrow there. There you go. So the Peloponnesian War is going to divide them up, and we're going to talk about how that happens. This is a really fun unit. We're going to do a lot of fun things in class, looking at battles and things like that. So let's just dive right in. See ya.
All right, guys, so around 500 BC, Athens became a democracy. Now, as a reminder, a democracy means rule by the people. So I included this picture here so you could see it's power to the people, essentially. This government gives power to the people, specifically its citizens. So the first time in history, a government was based on the votes of all of its citizens. Now remember, a citizen in Athens is a free native born, which means they were born in Athens, and a male. Okay, no longer did they have to own land. So a citizen in Athens is a free native born or Athenian born male. Okay. Now, from 461 to 529 BC, Athenian democracy reached its height under the ruler known as Pericles. Now, Pericles began to reward citizens who participated in government. I need you to circle participated because participation in democracy was a huge thing to Pericles. He wanted everyone to participate because that was a responsibility, that was a right that they had. And he really believed that people, citizens in particular, should be participating in this freedom. All right, guys, so I just talked about Pericles and how he believed that participation from citizens was so important that he would reward people who would do that. So we've included here a primary source from Pericles, and it's essentially him praising the Athenians for creating a democracy and participating in democracy. So I want you to pause the video, and I want you to read his speech, and then I want you to answer the hot question: what responsibilities does Pericles feel Athenian citizens have? Specifically, responsibilities. What is the responsibility of a citizen? Okay, so pause the video, read the quote, and then answer your hot question in the space provided. So as we're talking about democracy, I think a lot of us can get kind of confused or assume that we're talking about the democracy that we have in the United States today, and that's not the same. Okay, so if we look at this chart here, Athens has what's called a direct democracy. We're talking about the very beginning of what a democracy looked like, direct democracy. But here in the United States, we have what's known as a representative democracy. And I want to take a minute to look at the differences so we can get in our mind of what democracy looked like in ancient Greece compared to what democracy looks like in the United States today. So, in ancient Greece, it says all citizens met as a group to debate and vote directly on every issue. Now, here in the United States, it says citizens elect representatives to debate on the vote and vote for them. Okay, so we as the citizens will elect a representative to debate that issue and then vote on the issue for us. Now, that was different, right? So then in the direct democracy, it says there was no separation of powers. It says citizens created laws, enforced laws, and acted as judges. That there was no separate group of people making sure all of these things were done. But here in the United States, we do have a separation of power. And this is where citizens elect people to create laws, and then others to enforce those laws, and others to be judges. So we have people who make laws here in the United States. And then we have judges who, like in a courthouse, will judge to see if someone broke the law or not. Okay, that's separation of power. And last but not least, it says in the Athenian direct democracy that only free male citizens could vote. Women and slaves could not vote. But here in the United States, it says men and women who are citizens have the right to vote. Okay? Now, on your paper, you will see this compare and contrast chart. What I want you to do is read through every single bullet point, and I want you to decide if it applies to an Athenian democracy, the direct democracy, does it apply to the United States representative democracy, or does it apply to both? So what you'll do next to each one is A for Athens. Sorry for my awful A. You'll do a US if it applies to the United States representative democracy, or just simply put a B if it applies to both. Okay? So I want you to read through those. This is something we will check. It's just like your hot question. It's a task we want you to complete. We want you to be able to compare and contrast what the ancient Athenian Greeks, what ancient Greeks democracy or representative or direct, stop. Okay, we just want you to use this chart to be able to compare and contrast what ancient direct democracy looked like compared to today's democracy. Okay, so pause the video, go through that list, compare and contrast, and then let's move on to the Peloponnesian Wars.
All right, guys, so what we're going to talk about now is the Peloponnesian Wars. These wars happened after the Persian Wars, and these wars are a little bit different. They're almost like a civil war, but since the city-states think of themselves as separate, it's not quite the same as a civil war. However, in every war, in this case, it is going to be Greeks who die. So yes, that is a civil war in that sense. So it's called the Peloponnesian War because this is a Peloponnesus. And that Peloponnesus is almost like an island, but it's connected a little bit right there. You can see that. And so after the Persian War, the Greeks realized that if they band together with their city-states, they're going to be better off. And so they do that. They form an alliance together, and united they will stand, divided they will fall. So this alliance is going to protect each city-state, and they agree that if someone attacks you, we will come help you. So Sparta says, yes, we'll also come help if you get attacked. Athens says they'll come help. And all the other city-states that you can see on the map, they agree to help defend one another. And they also agree to help protect trade. That is a big deal with this alliance, because if you can protect trade in the Mediterranean, then you're going to be more wealthy. So the city-states are going to give money and taxes to help support this alliance so that they have a coffer or money to pull from if they do get attacked again, and they don't want to be attacked by the Persians anymore. And since revenge was why they came last time, they're still a little concerned about the Persians coming back. So the reason it's called the Delian League is all the money is going to be kept on the island of Delos, which is located south right there. And the alliance became known as the Delian League. Makes sense because it's on the island of Delos. So all the money is going to be kept there, and Athens is going to be the strongest member, and Athens gets a little sassy, I guess we could say, and they begin to treat the other members like their subjects. Athens is the center of culture and the center of growth and center of education. And they kind of think they're a little bit better than the other city-states. And that's where we get the Persian Wars, because people don't like to be treated that way. They want to be counted as equals, and they want to be respected for what they do and what they know. So that's where we're going to go next. If you can look right here on our little key, you can see the city-states that are going to align, and the territory that is going to align with Athens. They're going to be orange. And the ones that align with Sparta are green. And the yellow, which is, there's very little yellow if you look at that, that's neutral territory. And then we're going to look on the next slide and we'll see their victory. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so war has set in, and we can see, again, Athens is the orange and Sparta is the green. So as these Peloponnesian Wars set in, Sparta and some other city-states actually formed the Peloponnesian League. And the Peloponnesian League, if you look at that, Sparta is located on that Peloponnesus that's sticking off from at the bottom of Greece down here. Looks like a peninsula. This is called the Peloponnesus. So, and they get this league, they kind of go together and they say, hey, Athens, you need to stop that. We don't want you acting like you own everything, and we don't want you acting like you are in control of all the money and all of the Delian League. You're not. We should be together. And so Athens is going to have the strongest navy. So if we can see right there, Athens is going to have a strong navy. Look where they're located. They are on a peninsula as well. They're right here in case you're looking. Athens is located right there. But we studied about Sparta already, and we know they have the strongest army. So when the two start to fight each other, they have very different ways of fighting and very different battle techniques. And we'll get to that in class. We'll talk about that more. But overall, this war is going to last 25 years and was only won when Sparta got gold for a navy from Persia. Look at that. They went back. Their old enemy, they made them their ally. And so Persia comes in to save the day for Sparta. So here's the Persian Empire. It's located right here. And Sparta agrees to give up some of this orange land. It's not the orange land, but some land right in here, like Ionia, where that was, in exchange to have a navy so they could go out and fight the Athenians and Athenian allies. Really cool thing about this, real quick, we don't want to talk too much because we're going to do it in class, but the really cool thing about this is the Spartan soldiers use their boats and pull right up to the Athenian boats, and they use hooks and trap the boats together, pull themselves together, almost like you would rescue somebody who's drowning, and pull them together so that they can just walk across and fight this battle as if they're on land, which that means Sparta now has the upper hand, and they can just take care of the Greeks take care of the Athenians because they are not good hand-to-hand fighters like the Spartans. So interesting point there. So let's move on and see how this ends. All right, so let's see how this wraps up. We will talk more details about the war and how things happen, and it's just some cool stuff. So we'll talk about that later. But although Sparta wins this war, Greece is now very weak. United they stand, divided they fall. And so now they don't have any cohesiveness. They don't help each other. There's no agreement if the northern cities were to get attacked that the southern cities would come help. And when you can look here, it's pretty divided. If you look at the green, Sparta's got just some allies in the north, and then they're in the south. Athens only has allies all along the Aegean Sea. They really don't have any, and it doesn't even go very far from the coastline. I mean, there's a lot of space where they can be attacked. The neutral sites are purple, and you really don't go either way. They're not going to really help. They don't want any conflict in their area. And you can see all the red spots are Spartan victories, and all the blue, other way around. All the blue ones are Spartan victories, and all the red ones are Athenian victories. So you can kind of see how the war was just everywhere in there. Many farms get destroyed. Sometimes we don't think about farmland being something that gets destroyed, and they only had a little bit of farmland to begin with. And so now they're even weaker because they don't have any food that they did have before, but yet they still have to trade. And remember, Sparta got that navy from Persia, so a lot of their boats have been destroyed. So they are really weak as far as city-states go. People are left without jobs. If you don't have any boats to repair, yeah, you might have a job building new boats, but where are you going to get the lumber to do that? You really can't trade with Phoenicia anymore to bring lumber in. It's a mess. It's just a mess. So Sparta rules harshly, which leads to many rebellions. Nobody likes to be oppressed like that and pushed down, and so Sparta should have been a little nicer on their end too. It might have been a little more palatable, which means the people might have liked that a little more and been able to deal with it. But the rebellion from within and the lack of economy infrastructure, which means all their businesses were not working well and they didn't have any way to trade. When they didn't have all of those assets, the good things that they had before, now they're really weak. The Greeks failed to notice. When you're busy trying to find food, you can't notice what's going on around you. They failed to notice Macedon in the north. That's the area straight north. This is the Black Sea right here. You barely can see it. Goes around over to Turkey. And almost always invaders come from the north. So Greeks failed to notice that they were getting stronger because they were too busy squabbling amongst themselves. United we stand, divided we fall. And that makes it possible for Philip to come down, and he conquers most of Greece. But then his son Alexander comes along and unites all of Greece, not to mention everything all the way over to India. He is a great, great warrior, and we're going to see that. But Philip made sure that his son was educated by the smartest person around at the time, which is going to be Alexander. So we'll talk about that later. But this is just the Persian War in a nutshell. See you in class. Did I say Persian? I said that's the Peloponnesian War. Thank you, Miss Lewis. These things get confusing. Love you guys. See you in the class.